You might think divorce leaves you broken, but what if this is the perfect chance to rebuild better, freer, stronger? Restarting your life after divorce isn't just possible, it's easier than you think, when you know where to begin. For men over 50, this isn't just recovery, it's reinvention. It's the chance to reset your priorities, to rediscover freedom, to rebuild a life you no longer have to compromise. But here's the thing, most men don't know where to start. The silence after divorce can feel heavy. The empty rooms can feel louder than arguments. So today, we're going to break it down simply, calmly, practically, step by step. Not just how to survive this chapter, but how to thrive in it. If you've ever looked around and wondered, how do I start over from zero? Comment below. This time, I rebuild for me. Foundation 1. Secure your basic needs. After a divorce, a man often loses more than a partner. He may lose his home, his routines, even small things that once felt unremarkable, like the chair where he drank morning coffee for 20 years. This first step isn't glamorous. It isn't about victory or success. It's about grounding, shelter, food, safety. And this is where many men stumble. They rush, trying to recreate what was lost, trying to replace home before they've understood what they truly need. But this chapter isn't about replicating old comfort. It's about building new peace. A small apartment near work, a guest room at a brother's house, a rented cottage far from familiar streets that carry too many memories. It doesn't matter what form it takes, as long as it's yours. A place where you can close the door, breathe deeply, and feel safe. Safety, that's the real key word here. At this stage, many men choose locations out of habit, close to their ex, close to the past, close to what they think they might still need. But here's a truth worth sitting with. Your new home is not about proximity to anyone else. It's about sovereignty, a place that serves you, quietly, simply, completely. And don't overlook finances here. Downsize if needed. Simplify without shame, because peace is cheap, but pretending is expensive. Men who rush into a lease they can't afford, or fill a house with things just to feel less empty, often prolong their suffering. Ask yourself gently, what can I truly afford? Not just today, but sustainably? What kind of space makes sense for this chapter? Do you need 2 bedrooms for your children, or can you create cozy spaces that work for the life you're living? And ask this too, does distance help healing? Sometimes, a move 2 streets away keeps wounds open, while a move to 2 towns away gives you breathing room. Take inventory of your resources. Who could you lean on temporarily? A sibling, a trusted friend while you stabilize? Would house sharing make sense, not as a permanent solution, but as a bridge? Remember, you're not rebuilding a mansion. You're rebuilding yourself. And you can't do that well if your housing costs add stress, or if your space keeps you stuck in old routines. At its best, your new home becomes more than walls. It becomes an anchor. It's where you start to redefine normal, where you rediscover simple rituals, your coffee, your music, your peace. This isn't about square footage. It's about sovereignty, a place that lets you regroup, rethink, breathe, a place that quietly reminds you, you are enough, and you can begin again. This first victory, a calm, safe, affordable space, anchors everything else that follows. When you have a room that's yours, that reflects your needs rather than your fears, you've already won more than most. Foundation 2. Protect your health and finances. After divorce, most men focus outward. Paperwork, lawyers, logistics, settlement terms. But what quietly determines how quickly you recover is how well you protect your health and your finances. Stress, this quiet companion of divorce, doesn't just weigh on your mind. It attacks your body. High cortisol, high blood pressure, sleepless nights that leave you foggy, long days where your appetite disappears or overindulges. And financially, it's tempting to ignore the numbers for a while, to delay, to hold on to habits from a 2-income life, to spend just to feel normal again. But here's the truth. Your health and your finances are the twin pillars that must be guarded if you want peace. Let's talk about health first. During this period, your body becomes a mirror of your mind. The tension in your chest, the fatigue that creeps in, the aches that seem new. This is the toll of transition. But it's also an opportunity. Simple routines, daily walks, regular gym sessions, even 20 minutes of stretching in the morning don't just rebuild muscle, they rebuild confidence. And exercise gives you something else most men overlook: control. In a world where so much feels out of control, where lawyers, courts, and paperwork dictate your day, exercise returns agency. You choose your pace, you choose your progress, and with every drop of sweat, your mind clears just a little more. Health isn't about vanity now, it's about survival. Mental, emocional, physical, now finances. Many men stumble here too. They try to maintain the lifestyle they had during marriage, forgetting that a household of one has different rules. They keep expensive subscriptions, stay in oversized homes, drive cars that no longer match their life. But the wise man knows, simplicity isn't sacrifice, it's freedom. This is the perfect moment to take inventory. What are your true expenses? Where can you cut not out of scarcity, but out of clarity? Downsizing isn't failure, it's strategy. And money saved is peace earned, because financial stress is the shadow that can haunt you long after emotional wounds heal. Budget carefully, spend mindfully. You don't have to live frugally forever, but you do have to live wisely now. Ask yourself, do I need this? Or is this habit? Is this cost feeding my peace? Or feeding my ego? And remember this: debt quietly compounds pain, but simplicity compounds peace. Together, health and finances form a foundation stronger than bricks. A healthy body gives you energy, clarity, and resilience. A healthy wallet gives you options, security, and quiet. This isn't the time to pretend everything is fine. It's the time to quietly, methodically, create a simple life you can afford and a healthy body you can trust. When these two pillars stand strong, you'll breathe easier, sleep better, and handle everything else, from loneliness to new beginnings, with dignity. So protect them, not someday, now. And this protection will protect you in return. Foundation 3. Build belonging and brotherhood. Divorce often leaves men standing in an empty room, but the silence they fear isn't just about quiet walls. It's about belonging, connection, the sense that someone, somewhere, understands. Loneliness hits hard after divorce, and harder for men. Why? Because during marriage, most men unconsciously rely on their partner for social connection. She was often their gateway to gatherings, the planner of dinners, the organizer of family events. Without her, many men discover something unsettling. They haven't built a network of their own. Suddenly, they're isolated, watching life from the sidelines. And that loneliness, if left unchecked, can pull a man into bad decisions, rushing into new unhealthy relationships, reaching for temporary companionship, or simply sinking into withdrawal. But here's a keener, better path: brotherhood, male friendship, connection with other men who understand this season of life. Men don't talk about this enough, but it's real. The man who rebuilds well after divorce isn't necessarily the wealthiest or the healthiest. He's the man who surrounds himself with other good men, men who lift, who listen, who walk the path beside him. Where do you find this brotherhood? Not on a screen, not scrolling feeds or chasing online approval. Brotherhood lives in real spaces. The coffee shop, the men's club, the volunteer organization, there's Wear.Cord, the hiking trail, the veterans group, the gym. It's found where men gather quietly, not to impress each other, but to simply be present. And here's the secret: you have to extend your hand first. You can't wait for connection to knock on your door. You must knock. Invite a colleague for coffee. Say yes to that neighbor's invitation. Join a men's group, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. Because real belonging isn't about being surrounded by people. It's about being seen honestly by a few. A wise man once said, "If you die with 5 good friends, you've lived well." But here's what no one tells you: you must cultivate those friendships deliberately. It won't happen by accident, especially now when isolation feels easier, when the couch feels safe, when self-pity whispers that no one understands. Fight that urge. Reach out, because loneliness isn't solved by a romantic partner. It's solved by brotherhood. And brotherhood heals in ways romantic love never can. Men understand men. They know the silent weight of pride, the quiet ache of loss, the need for shared purpose without unnecessary words. When you cultivate that circle, whether it's 2 friends or 10, you're no longer alone. Even on your worst days, you'll know there's someone to call. Even in your quietest moments, you'll know you belong somewhere. This foundation may not seem urgent, but it's essential. Without it, loneliness becomes dangerous, a breeding ground for depression, addiction, poor choices, and regret. But with it, you become resilient. You rediscover laughter, shoulders to lean on, and conversations that don't need to be perfect, just honest. So build your brotherhood now, not later, not after you figure it all out. Now, because the man who walks this road alone may survive, but the man who walks it with others will thrive. Foundation 4. Restore self, worth, and purpose. Divorce doesn't just change your address. It can quietly fracture your sense of self. Many men, without realizing it, wrap their entire identity around being a husband, a provider, a protector. When that role disappears, they don't just feel loss. They feel lost. This is the quiet crisis no one talks about. The man who looks around his empty home and asks himself, who am I now if I'm no longer her husband? But here's the truth. Divorce also gives you something priceless. A clean slate. You now have permission and responsibility to define self-worth on your own terms. This isn't about starting from zero. It's about starting from experience. You've lived. You've learned. You've endured. And now you have the chance to choose. What matters now? What do I want my days to look like, without anyone else defining them? This is where purpose enters. Purpose is the quiet fuel that makes mornings meaningful and nights peaceful. Without it, men drift. They fill time, but feel empty. With it, men rise even when no one's watching. So how do you restore self-worth and purpose? First, pause. This isn't about rushing into a new project or chasing random distractions. It's about asking, what makes me feel alive? What did I set aside during my marriage? Because there was no time, no space, no encouragement. Maybe it's woodworking. Maybe it's writing. Maybe it's coaching younger men or volunteering for a cause that matters to you. Purpose doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be real. And purpose restores dignity. When a man lives with intention, whether it's building a business or tending a quiet garden, he reconnects with his own value. He no longer needs applause. He no longer measures himself by another's expectations. Self-worth rises naturally when you live in alignment with your own priorities. And here's a quiet truth. Purpose has nothing to do with perfection. It's not about winning life. It's about engaging with it, fully, even messily. The key is to choose something that belongs to you, not borrowed from your ex's interests, not what society says a divorced man should do, but what stirs your soul gently, steadily. There's a beautiful practice that helps. Before sleep, in the quiet, visualize what you want your days to feel like. Not what others expect from you, but what you long for even secretly. Feel it. Picture it. Then, the next day, take one small step in that direction. This process is gradual, but powerful, because with every step, you rebuild self-trust. And when you trust yourself again, your self-worth is no longer fragile. Men who rebuild well after divorce don't wait for purpose to appear. They create it deliberately, and they protect it, because they know it's the key to everything else. Health, peace, dignity, even love someday. So ask yourself gently, what can I build now that is truly mine? Not what impresses others, but what nourishes me. This isn't the time for grand gestures. It's the time for quiet clarity, because when a man restores purpose, he restores himself. And from that solid foundation, everything else, even companionship, can flow naturally. But without it, even the best apartment, the best finances, the best health routines feel hollow. Purpose is what makes all those pieces fit together again, and makes life worth living on your terms. Foundation 5. Reach true self. Actualization. At the very top of this journey, beyond securing shelter, beyond protecting health and finances, beyond rebuilding friendship, beyond rediscovering purpose, lies something few men consciously aim for: Self-actualization. It sounds lofty, abstract, even intimidating. But self-actualization simply means this: becoming the man you were meant to be. Fully, calmly, completely. It means you no longer live for validation. You live in alignment. Your days reflect your deepest values. Your choices are deliberate, not reactive. Your emotions are steady, not suppressed. And your peace is real, not performative. Many men never reach this stage because they never pause long enough to ask, what do I truly want from the life that remains? Not what they were told to want. Not what they once chased in their youth. Not what a partner expected. But what they, as mature men, value deeply. At this level, you begin to understand that your worth isn't tied to productivity, or status, or applause. Your worth simply is. You learn to enjoy solitude without fear. You learn to savor simplicity without apology. You stop comparing your journey to anyone else's because you finally see peace, purpose, dignity. These things are internal. Self-actualization is about flow. You don't force life. You let it unfold while remaining grounded. This is why men who reach this stage seem so calm. They walk more slowly. They listen more fully. They smile more sincerely. They're no longer in a hurry to win. They're here to live fully. And ironically, this is the moment when the highest quality relationships emerge. Not because you're chasing them, but because you attract from a place of peace. When you reach this level, you're no longer needy. You're selective not because you're bitter, but because your life is already good. Companionship becomes a complement, not a crutch. This is where you discover that a relationship entered at this point is fundamentally different from the ones you endured before, because now, you don't bring desperation to the table. You bring clarity, kindness, strength, and boundaries, and you attract a partner who respects that. But even if no partner comes, you're fine, because this time, you are whole. Self-actualization is where your past no longer defines you, your future no longer terrifies you, and the present moment finally feels enough. It's where you wake up and feel gratitude, kiet, real gratitude, not because everything is perfect, but because everything is yours. Your peace, your purpose, your freedom. This is why all the work of securing basic needs, protecting health, cultivating brotherhood, restoring purpose, matters so much. Each layer makes this final stage possible. And from here, if you do choose to love again, you'll love well. Not because you need to, but because you're ready. This is your reward. A life that feels aligned, balanced, and dignified. Not everyone reaches this point. Many men stay stuck in survival. But you have the opportunity. Divorce may have felt like a failure, but it's really an invitation. An invitation to become the man you've always wanted to be, quietly, steadily, completely. So take it, because this level of living isn't reserved for a lucky few. It's reserved for the deliberate. Divorce feels like an ending, but it's really a beginning you didn't expect. At first, everything seems unfamiliar. The empty house, the quiet mornings, the ache of old routines lost. But in that quiet, you gain something priceless. Freedom. Not freedom to escape. Freedom to rebuild carefully, deliberately, authentically. This time, life belongs entirely to you. You choose where you live, how you heal, who you let in, and what kind of man you become next. You're no longer defined by a role. Husband, provider, protector. You're defined by your integrity, your calm, your clarity. The path isn't easy. Some days will feel heavy. Some nights will feel long. But over time, each layer you rebuild shelter, health, friendship, purpose, makes you stronger, clearer, and lighter. And one day, quietly, you'll wake up and realize you don't just feel okay again. You feel whole. You've become the kind of man who no longer fears solitude because you know how to fill your own life. You've become the kind of man who no longer rushes love because your life is already good. This is your reward. Not perfection, but peace. Not applause, but alignment. Not success in other people's eyes, but satisfaction in your own. So if you're standing at the edge of this journey, uncertain, unsure, remember this: You're not starting over. You're starting wisely. If this spoke to you, comment quietly below. This time, I rebuild for me. You're not too old. You're not too late. You're exactly where you're meant to be. And you're stronger than you know.